Hello, good afternoon, Armand.
Good
And
afternoon, Natalie.
thank you for giving us a little bit of time here. So, Armand, you're from France. You've been here in Lake Atitlan for almost 30 years. You one of the founder of the famous Villa Sumaya. You created in 2003 Atitlan Solution, which is one of the premier real estate agency at the lake. You specialized in purchase and sale of land and property within and outside the lake Atitlan. Um, you're one of the few foreign licensed Guatemalan real estate agent working in Guatemala. You're fluent in French, English, and Spanish. You're a proud member of the Guatemala Association of Realtor, the National Chamber of Realtor, Amigos de Atitlan, and president of the Rotary E-Club of Atitlan. You are a customer-driven realtor dedicated to achieve results and providing exceptional service in real estate, rentals, property management, and construction. When you're not with a client, you're busy running at Sunset Lodge, a small health-conscious, self-catered apartment nested at the shore of Santa Cruz La Laguna, where you spend your free time enjoying yoga, paddleboarding, swimming, and running.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you, Armand, for being here. And the reason why I'd like to interview you today is because I hear often the same question: should we pay tax on vacation rental in Guatemala?
Okay. Thank you, Natalie. So we have to put in context what does it mean. Like if if you generate a revenue in Guatemala, according to the Guatemalan tax law, you have to pay the VAT. The VAT is a tax added value. So any activity generated in Guatemala, where all the services delivered in Guatemala, has to pay VAT as a minimum. So the question would be, yes, you have to pay tax.
So, for instance, if you use a platform like Airbnb, there is a little box where they ask you to add tax. So you should add a tax there, which is how much is the tax? What's the percentage?
So it all depends, because what Airbnb is doing is to make sure. Airbnb always have been asking the people registering to comply with their local tax. But we all know that for lots of people here and other places around the world, this income is escaping the tax collector. Some countries, there's a minimum of rent you can collect without having to report it. So that's legal in the country, so you don't have to worry. And some other country, you have to report everything, but because the system is not efficient, you can escape it. In Guatemala, we at Atitlan Solution, we manage some properties from clients, and most of our clients have a setup to pay their tax. Airbnb is saying it's because Airbnb has been this issue where a government are saying you are a platform who encourage people to generate income through your product, through your platform, but we, as government, we cannot control it. We don't know which these people. So Airbnb is doing, okay, now we have a new line where you have to put your ID, tax ID. So the question would be, which one I'm going to put? If I am a foreigner, American or European, and I have a property in Guatemala or somewhere else, should I put my home country tax ID, or should I generate a new tax ID from the country I am doing the service, because I'm supposed to report also this revenue in the country where the service is delivered? So that's the first question, which number? Second is there is different taxes. There's income tax and tax added value tax. So Airbnb is just, what you have to be careful is, and it's as well for your own countries and if you are a foreigner, as for the Guatemalan tax people, because Airbnb is anticipating the demand of the government. And if the Guatemalan government come, and they will come, the tax people, and tell the Airbnb, we want us to transfer the people who have activities in Guatemala and their tax registration with you. So if you put, I am from this country and I rent this place here, but my tax is from my own country, then you are documenting for the tax people in Guatemala yourself, you're documenting that you're evading the Guatemalan tax, because now there's a public, not a public record, it's an Airbnb record, but it says, yeah, that I rent this house, apartment or room in Guatemala, but I report the income in another country. So it's a tricky thing, because I don't know if it will ever happen, but that's part of the possibilities that the Guatemalan tax people could use this information against you. So if you live here and part of your income is to rent more than occasionally a house, a room, you have to see with your own country the tax obligation, because if you're American, you have to report all your income from all around the world, but it's not all the country around the world will require that from their citizens. Now you can have an activity in your own country will cover this kind of things, which is renting or property management or things like that. But that's in your own country. It's still, because you generate a service here in Guatemala, you have to, any service generated here in Guatemala has to be reported. So you would have to register a simple tax registration in Guatemala, and it's not associated with your migratory status, in order for you to pay the tax that you will have to pay. So basically it's a VAT, and then you have income tax if it's an activity. Well, it's not because you put your tax number in Airbnb that Airbnb is collecting. Airbnb is just saying, it's just acknowledging that you have a tax number, because they can say to anybody who's asking and say, oh yeah, look, our platform users have a tax number. They're not in charge to see if it's true or not. I mean, you could put any number, they're not going to verify it. The only thing is, it's just for them to say, we encourage our user to be in the law, and they put their number. If the government asks, here's the number. Then the government has to check if you pay the tax, because Airbnb is not collecting money. Airbnb is only collecting a fee. And you are the one who, if you said my VAT in my country is 12% like it is in Guatemala, and you include in a price, that's a second thing you have to be careful, because if you don't report it to the Guatemalan tax, you're evading it, and you are documenting the evasion, because you said collecting the 12%, but the government is like, well, I'm sorry, but in your number, nothing up here. So yeah, now you're in trouble.
Okay, yes, I imagine. So, like, for instance, for a tourist in Guatemala that has a property on Airbnb, would you advise to maybe start a company here in Guatemala?
Okay, so my advice is for anybody who rent something where you have people using whatever it is, your car, your boat, your room, I would set up a C company. I always advise my clients to not be the legal figure of their activity. Why? Because if you have any problem, like somebody missed the steps because they were too drunk, somebody died because you don't have a proper ventilation, somebody jumped in your pool but they didn't realize there were no water, and you didn't have a sign who said check the pool that there is water before jumping in it, they can sue you. And they can sue you on your asset in your own country. So okay. if you are renting your house and you are making good money, I would say it's wiser to invest in a C company, Guatemalan C company. It's not cost much to set up one these days. It's much easier. But then it's deflect the responsibility to the company, which is a Guatemalan legal entities, and not you as an individual.
Okay, but still the Guatemalan company is liable or not?
But only to the value of the shares.
Okay.
And the shareholder are not responsible. They're only responsible for the value of the share, not on their asset, or not on their personal asset.
Okay,
That's
and how much
difference.
does it cost to set up a company?
Well, it has to do with the volume of activities, because if you rent a $500 room or apartment a month, we're talking $6,000 a year of income if you rent it all the time. You have to grade your company according to your volume, but it can be the basic fee right now to set up the very small company. It's like under $100. If you have a shareholder company, it can be around $2,000. And in the $2,000, you have the lawyer fee and some cost you have to pay to the government. The advantage of setting a company is that the company pays the tax. So
okay,
when you as foreigners, well, it's not you who are renting personally. So on Airbnb, you will put the company Guatemalan tax number, and the company here would pay the tax. The tax are very little because in terms of income tax, the VAT is 12%. But in terms of income tax, you have to choose between a fee on the growth or a percentage on the profit. It's much easier to choose a fee on the growth because it simplifies the calculation. The price of this content, it's variable. Depends if you choose one from the city or one from the neighborhood. It's not the price, it's the quality of their content. Because first of all, there's lots of cases in Guatemala. I don't say all their content are bad, but foreigners, because they don't understand anything and they tell to their content, take care of it. There's many cases in Antigua and in the lake where I've used them thinking paying taxes, but the tax never reached the Guatemalan treasury. And one day the Guatemalan treasury come and said, we don't see anything from you. And you say, oh, I have all this paper, but these paper are fake. And the accountant is on the run, and you have to still pay the tax because the government said we never receive it, so you get double taxed. So it's not about the cost, because it's an investment on your tranquility and your security. In Guatemala, we said, and it's all around the world, but if you go too cheap, then you will get the service you pay for. Yeah. So if you don't understand the language, choose an accountant that is highly recommended and reputable by other foreigners or other entities, because it's an investment on your tranquility, peace of mind, and you're not going to pay two-time taxes if you already paid it. Revenue is much cheaper. You have to choose. If you generate under 30,000 quetzales, you pay 5%, and after 30,000, it's 7% of what you generate. So it's end up being around 5% of your growth. If you choose a simplified system where you said, you report all your rent and you pay 5% on it, and that's it. And it's easier accounting. And generally speaking, the tax people, they don't check you because you report your sales. So of course, people say, well, yeah, but it's still 5%. I make 10,000, I give 5%. If you want to go to the profit and loss, that's where you get more probability we will be audited. It's more complicated, and personally, I think it's not worth it. 10%, it's around 17% the cost. But you can compensate it. So when you collect 12%, but you spend on products like cleaning products, toiletry, linen, a new stove, then you generate VAT, so you compensate it, so you can also recuperate.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. Actually, it's a pretty easy solution.
Yeah. Well, you stay as a private owner of your house, but you should have a rental agreement between you and the company where you allow the company to rent your place. It could be for a very modest sum, because the thing is, you want, if the house is yours and the company is just like an Airbnb, you still are at the end the one who is going to, to pay something, because the tax people are going to say, well, this company is renting your house, but you doesn't make sense. You don't rent your house for free. So if you bring the house in the company, then you have it's clear that it's not you. But if the company is just to give a professional service, which is renting or property management, then you have to have a document between the house and you and the company that clarify how the service or the house is going to use and at what cost.
Okay, so you need a rental agreement, and of course, if you do that, you want to put the price as low as possible, because then you're supposed also to declare that revenue then in your own country. Wow, that's really interesting. Thank you. This is great information. So, and what about a company that is not in Guatemala?
Well, in order for a company to exercise in Guatemala, you need to have an agency here, something, an extension.
Okay, okay.
If it's a big part of your income and you are generating, a good amount of money, then you should be targeting a little bit more upscale accountant, because because the accountant normally they just do accounting, which is for me seems very strange that they never give me advice about how I can perfect my accounting in order to save there and improve there. And no, because you pay them to do accounting. So that's what you did in Panarachel. Now, if you do a more elaborate or a bigger volume of activity, I would say you have to consult with the most sophisticated and trained accountant. And in the city, you get them. I have one also who come and goes, because they give you strategy. And the strategy, it's sometimes for your activity go beyond just managing your books.
And what would be an amount that would justify to work with someone like that?
I think if you do $1,000 a month, because under a certain amount you won't show up in the record, in the tax record. But so now what you have to know, also the expert has to know a couple of things. If you have a business activity, and if you think that because you have a status in your own country, and because you generate the activity or the reservation outside Guatemala and all these things, you are accepted to pay any tax here, watch out. If you register your number, if you have your name, personal name and tax, Guatemalan tax or your own tax name, in a platform, you are documented to the tax Guatemalan people what you are doing. With your name, now the tax people can ask the bank system if you have an account and what money you move on the account without you knowing it. Okay? So if the money you're collecting, you go to the Guatemalan bank and deposit and think nobody is watching, wrong attitude.
Okay.
And if they see that you move money, then they're going to look at their tax registry, and if they don't find you are a great client for them.
Okay.
Now, you have to know that if you register and have a little business here and pay your tax here, the tax people will only go back 4 years.
Okay.
When they come and they do an audit, which at the moment they don't do because we have COVID, but also they are not yet at this level of sophistication. But the tax people now are crossing registers Like for example, in France, the institutions, they cannot cross register. They cannot ask the car dealers to send them who bought the cars and cross it with the insurance and cross it with. They cannot do that. But here in Guatemala, they can do it. So they can ask the bank if you have an account and ask what kind of movement you have, and the bank have to tell them, and you don't have to know it. And also they can ask the credit card people if you have a credit card, and they can ask and they can see online, because now they have smarter kids. They're hiring smarter kids, and the kids are like, oh, let's go and see who's this person is. They Google you and they find, oh, you are here, here, here. And they said, okay, you are doing this, you are selling that. And where are the tax? So if you don't register with them, the tax people can go back 8 years to 10 years. And if you are not registered, they decide how much money you made. So if you have a house and you rent it for $200 a night, and they look at your calendar and you are booked half the month, which is $3,000, they can charge you $3,000 a month for the last 8 years or 10 years.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that could really hurt, and it could be so simple, huh? To just start a business. So how much would it cost to start a business with a financial advisor in Guatemala?
Well, that's not my activity, so I cannot say right away. I would have to. It all depends. You know, my experience. It's per month. You can pay between $50 to $100 for this kind of service. Now, the cost of making the company and all these things, it all depends also of the size of the company, because if you have more than one house, or if you generate this kind of volume, you might need a bigger, you have to pay some tax to the government to set up the company. So the bigger it is, you pay more. But you know, an SA, a C company is the one we know, like people refer to in the States, which is called the C company, or in a Société Anonyme, which are not anonymous anymore. You can count about $1,000 to $2,000.
Okay. So, but if you make more than $1,000 a month of income with your property, you think it's better to go with an SC?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, it depends how you make the 1,000, because if you make 1,000 renting 3 nights at 300, I would say, yeah, go for the AC, because you are renting to high-end customers. And high-end customers are the one who have the means to pay a lawyer to go after you if they have a problem.
Okay. So should you take also responsibility insurance or a liability insurance when
Totally.
you rent? Totally.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And that's not expensive. Well,
no?
if you have an insurance on your house, most of the Guatemalan policy have a liability included in the insurance of the house. But you can you have a liability for mine. I think it's for $20,000 of liability, and I think I pay like $150 a year, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that's not much. No. Well, that's really interesting. So you were saying that now actually it's penal if they caught you.
Yeah, it's with a new law of laundering money and drug money. If the tax people can, and now they can access your bank account, if your income, if your rental is generating money and that you don't report it, they can accuse you of laundering money, and this is a felony that goes directly to court, and that's a much serious case, because you have the fine, you have the jail, and you are going to spend a lot of money on lawyer to keep you afloat. So that's important to know.
Wow. Well, that's very good advice. It's very good to know. I think everybody is gonna go take care of their